Elizabeth.
Casey.
You are in the middle of an arena.
Yes.
With a massive 60-foot long, fire-breathing, winged, fanged, scaled dragon.
Oh boy.
How would you defeat it?
Oh my gosh, that's real hard. What do I have?
Well, since the characters in this book have it, we'll say you have magic.
Okay, I have magic. So I have a wand?
Sure.
Okay.
You can have a wand.
I have a wand. And I'm trying to just, like, defeat the dragon.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to necessarily kill it. You just are trying to get past. You're trying to get past the dragon.
Past the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
I would pull out one of my D&D spells and put it to sleep, and then just walk around it very carefully.
Wait. You would attempt to use the D&D spell Sleep on this dragon.
Yes, I would.
Have you ever read the description for the D&D spell Sleep?
Nope.
Here's this funny thing about the D&D spell Sleep. You roll dice based on your level, and the numbers on those dice are the HP of creatures that you can put to sleep.
So you're saying I wouldn't be able to do that?
That is exactly what I am saying. As a dungeon master, that is exactly what I am saying.
Well, then why don't you tell me what you would do while I come up with a new plan?
If I was trying to get past a dragon.
Yes. See, it's harder than it looks.
If I was trying to get past a dragon, I would probably talk to it.
Talk to it.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, you mentioned D&D, so now I've got my brain on it. Dragons are very intelligent creatures.
Usually, yes.
And in most fantasy, they can communicate with humans in human language.
So you'd pull a Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah. I mean, I play a bard. Like, charisma's my strong suit.
That does not surprise me.
I'd just be like, listen, I think we got off on the wrong foot here. Let's talk about this.
I cast Charm Dragon.
Not even charm the dragon, just charm him with my personality. I don't need magic to charm a dragon. I just need my own valuable extrovert skill set, which I already have.
That's true. It's true.
I got it on lock.
Okay. So you would talk to the dragon.
I'd ask it what it wanted. We'd communicate. We'd work it out. We'd work something out.
Yeah. Then I'm also going to pull a little thing from Bilbo's book. Turn myself invisible.
That is a way to do it.
Yep. So Bilbo Baggins is the definitive way to get past dragons.
The definitive dragon sneaking character
is Bilbo Baggins.
Is Bilbo fucking Baggins.
Welcome to This Is Lit, a podcast where we drink and talk about our favorite books. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey.
So raise a glass and let's get started.
Okay, Liz, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking a chocolate milkshake because I am still pregnant.
Yes, you're still pregnant.
Still pregnant.
3 days after the last time we spoke.
3 days after the last time we spoke, I'm still pregnant. What are you drinking, Casey?
I'm drinking port.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Tawny Port.
Tawny Port from Somerset Ridge. It's sweet and very strong, and I quite like it.
Yes, Tawny Port is usually made in smaller batches, so it's in really small, brand new oak barrels.
Skinny bottles.
Yeah, but it's aged in very small, brand new oak barrels, so that way you get a lot more kind of oaky, nutty smokiness to it.
I see. Also, Liz pours me much smaller glasses of it.
It's training. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Because she thinks I'm a baby. I'm like,
I know.
Just because this is 19% alcohol by volume does not mean I cannot throw it back like it's a fucking...
Vodka's 40.
Yeah, exactly. I had whiskey earlier.
It's in my training. I have to do small pours.
Okay, so listen, folks. We got to get our shit started here because today we are discussing Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and I don't know if y'all have seen this book, but it is thick. It is very big. It clocks in at what?
$25
734 pages.
And $25 when it was brand new because I've still got the tag on mine.
Mine is...
Oh, and my dust cover's backwards. I didn't know that.
Liz, this is my original copy.
And this is my original copy.
Did you only read it once? Like,
No,
why is it in such shape? This book is from 2000.
I take good care of my books, Casey.
I do too. It's just, I've read it so many times and it's so heavy.
I think also,
that
too,
the pages start to tear.
We need to address the fact that recently in my book club group, schools have started banning Harry Potter again. Anyway, I feel the need to tell this story. Back when I was in elementary school, around fourth grade, when these came out, and the fourth one was really kind of when things took off.
I do remember that as well. I had friends who had not been reading and not been interested until the fourth one, and that's probably because the fourth one came out when we hit middle school.
Yeah. So anyway, what I was saying, the original 3 that I had, my elementary school, we were not allowed to keep the Harry Potter books in the library. So we could bring them to school and read them, but we were not allowed to have them.
Copies.
Yeah, we could bring our personal copies, and so I kind of ran an illegal Harry Potter library out of my desk. And like, if people wanted them, I would lend them my copies.
I don't share books.
So I guess I'm a rebel. But we need to get
into
on
it.
task.
Sidebar, before we do though, the front of my book has, the inside cover is purple. And I apparently attempted to mitigate that fact by putting a stripe of white out across it and writing my first name and last initial on it in sad 10-year-old handwriting.
Hey, at least you knew it was yours.
Like, this is my copy of the book. I don't share books. So anyway, yeah, this is the 4th Harry Potter book. Harry is getting ready to go back to his 4th year at Hogwarts.
Yes, and
but this book doesn't start
off
with
with Harry.
This book starts off in the village of Little Hangleton, at a place called the Riddle House.
And it talks about how everybody thinks it's haunted because, you know, one day the Riddles, Tom and his parents just ended up dead somehow.
Yeah, they were, Tom Riddle.
They all had looks of horror on their face, and they were dead.
His 2 parents were dead, and they were not very nice people, so they didn't care that they were dead, but they were very curious about who murdered them.
Yes, and so the old gardener who kept track of the land is still there, and he hears people talking, and he hears a voice refer to someone as Wormtail, and they talk about Bertha Jorkins and loyal servants, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. And then this giant snake comes, and this creature appears to talk to the snake, and then this man is killed.
Well, you jumped ahead a little bit here, but yeah, Frank.
I'm trying to keep it concise.
Well, but you've got to explain who Frank is.
Yeah.
First. Frank was the Riddler's gardener. At one point, was suspected of their murders.
Yes,
but since there was no cause of death, that could be found when the bodies were autopsied, he was forced to be let go, and he's lived in the cottage outside.
Yeah, they couldn't prove it was murder.
And then Frank goes up to the house in the middle of the night because he sees a light on in it. Here's 2 men conversing in the house. One referred to as Wormtail, one referred to as the Dark Lord, and the giant snake.
Nagini.
And he is listening in on this weird plot about some school and some boy, Harry Potter, and then he is murdered.
Yes, and as soon as that happens, chapter 2 begins with Harry waking up and his scar hurting him on number 4 Privet Drive.
This is, Harry's had pains in his scar before this, but this is the first time we really see Harry have a full-on vision.
Yeah.
And this makes sense because at this point Voldemort is growing slowly stronger.
Yeah, he's growing more powerful.
And as he grows more powerful, Harry's connection to him also grows more powerful.
Yeah, and Harry's worried about it, so he writes Sirius.
Yes, he writes his
godfather.
His godfather, and is like, yeah, I don't know. It's a cursed scar. It hurts. I don't know if that's normal. And so
he doesn't want to worry him though, so he tries to make it as casual as possible.
Yeah, he's like, things are same as usual around here. Tells him about his cousin, you know, a weird thing happened. I had my scar hurt, but I don't imagine that Voldemort could be close by. Do you imagine scars hurt sometimes? Just whatever.
Yeah, do cursed scars just generally hurt? So he's trying to keep
but
it real chill.
he didn't mention the dream, and he just tried to be laid back about it.
Yeah, and then the idea is quickly taken from Harry's mind when he is invited to attend the
Quidditch World Cup
with
the Weasleys.
And the Dursleys.
Yeah, Molly
agree.
actually sends a letter by regular post with a bunch of stamps on it, addressed to the Dursleys, requesting
Harry come and stay with them for the rest of the summer and do the World Quidditch Cup. And they consider saying no, but he's like, well, you know, I was just finishing a letter to my murderous godfather. They're like, okay, you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And so Harry is picked up by the Weasleys, which we don't need to go into detail of that scene, but it is an utter disaster.
Yeah.
And he returns to the Burrow with the Weasleys to attend the Quidditch World Cup with Ron, his little sister Ginny, his older twin brothers Fred and George. Their father. We meet Bill and Charlie Weasley for the first time. Who,
Bill is
attractive.
Very cool. Bill's the one that does dragon taming,
works
right?
for Gringotts.
Yeah, Bill works for Gringotts. He does curse breaking, and he works with dragons.
And Charlie's the one that works with dragons.
Bill
is the one that does
Bill does the curse breaking for Gringotts.
Yep.
Like, he's like one of those people, like in a regular bank, who would like go in and try to rob the bank, and then be like, "This is where your security's flawed."
Yeah, and he's got long hair and a fang
and
earring
a ponytail.
And
yeah, he's
great.
Cute. And then Charlie is a dragon tamer.
Yeah, he works in Romania.
Yeah,
and so he meets all the Weasleys. They all go to the Quidditch World Cup with Hermione as well.
Yes, well, they meet up with neighbors from the neighborhood that the Weasleys live in.
Amos and Cedric Diggory.
Cedric has been mentioned before. He is the captain of the Hufflepuff Quidditch team.
Yeah, he's also the seeker for the Hufflepuff Quidditch team.
And he is dating Cho Chang.
He is young, charming, and handsome.
And he is with his father to go to the Quidditch World Cup.
And Amos is beside himself that his son beat Harry Potter at a Quidditch match once, and his son is like, Dad, stop.
Very uncomfortable with it because, as you remember from the last book, Harry fucking fainted because of Dementors, and that's why Cedric won.
Yeah, and Cedric is like, that wasn't a fair fight, so don't brag about it.
Cedric's a good kid. And this is when we first see a new magical item introduced, a portkey.
Yes, a portkey.
So portkeys are innocuous items, usually trash that nobody will go picking up.
This one happens to be a boot.
And once you pick them up, they're on a certain timer. So once they are picked up, they teleport you to a new location.
Yes.
So the Weasleys and the Diggorys all gather around this boot. Everybody has to have a finger on the boot.
Yes.
And the boot teleports them to an old Irish moor in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And it's a huge field that has been charmed to ward muggles off. And
they go camping. They have the two tents. This is the tent that's bigger on the inside. Yes. Which I love. JK Rowling's like, that's a subtle Doctor Who reference.
Yeah, nice. Which I did not know at the time.
No, I didn't know it at the time either.
But yeah, so they...
So they go to the Quidditch World Cup, and it is...
Ireland versus
Hungary.
Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm. My mistake. And so... Fred and George Weasley bet Ludo Bagman.
We meet Ludo Bagman, who is a very bombastic wizard. He is the announcer for the Quidditch World Cup. He is also a gambler.
Bombastic is a very good word.
Thank you. He is a gambler, and he bets against Fred and George Weasley, who bet that Ireland will win, but Victor Crumb, the seeker for Bulgaria, will get the snitch.
Because he's one of the best Quidditch athletes they've ever seen.
They also meet Barty Crouch. Yeah, but Mr. Bagman is the head of magical games and sports, and Barty Crouch is some kind of...
He's a major higher up in the ministry. He is Percy Weasley's boss.
Yeah, but what does he do?
I can't remember his full title at the moment.
He's not Department of Mysteries.
No, definitely not. He was the one who was in charge of the Aurors and finding all the dark wizards back from the war.
Yeah, he's like some sort of magical law enforcement officer.
Yeah. He's like the weapons secretary.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. When they go, they watch this. Each team brings their own mascot.
Yes, the Irish obviously bring leprechauns.
Of course.
Naturally. And the Bulgarians bring... Vila, which are... They're kind of like harpies, almost.
Kind of, yes.
They're like fire-breathing bird people.
Yes.
They look very like beautiful women, and they are very charming, but they can also transform their faces into beaks. They have claws and feathers when they do that,
yes.
and they can throw fireballs. But mostly they look like beautiful women, and so the leprechauns do a cool routine with fake gold that showers down on everyone, and the Vila do a sexy dance that
almost has 14-year-old Harry and Ron jumping over the top box banister.
Yeah, it's
into
a really
the pit below.
the Wizarding World Cup is one of my favorite parts of the series because it's like a really very magical, but it's also very much a familiar scene. Like we've all been to a big sports game.
Yeah, we've all been to a major sports game.
And like whether you've been to just like high school basketball games or whether you've been to like an MLB game, like you've been to like a big sports game, like you've tailgated with family or friends, like it's a very familiar setting, but there's also magic happening.
Yeah, you tailgate and there's hype
and so there's this air of excitement about it. And so they watch the Quidditch World Cup. It is a very, very tight game. Both teams are very good.
Both teams are very good. We're introduced to Winky, who is Barty Crouch's house elf.
Yes, she's there with him. And
she's there saving him a seat, and he never shows up.
Yes. And so Harry is just very interested in watching Crumb and Aiden Lynch, who is Victor Crumb is the seeker for the Bulgarians. Aiden Lynch is the seeker for the Irish.
Yes, and he is very impressed with Crumb's flying ability.
Yes. Ireland has made a lot of goals.
Yes.
And then it gets a little out of hand.
Yes, things get a little out of hand.
The leprechauns make a rude sign at the Vila, and the Vila start throwing fireballs.
Well, the reason the leprechauns made a rude sign at the Vila was because there was a foul, and the Vila were dancing and distracting the umpire.
And so he didn't see the foul. And so
the leprechauns are like, they did that on purpose.
And so it turns into a fight between them, and then Crumb gets hit in the face with a bludger.
Yeah. So it's like things are coming unraveled very quickly.
And we also learn about two things. First thing we learn about is the Wronski feint.
Yes, the Wronski feint, which is a broom move.
Crumb's specialty move, where he'll dive for, like, he's seen the snitch, and he pulls out of the dive at the last moment, and if it's done correctly, the other seeker will dive with you, and they won't have time to pull out, and they'll crash.
Yeah.
He did do the Wronski feint to Lynch earlier in the game, but
yes.
Lynch is the first one to see the snitch.
Yes, he is.
And he dives for it, but Crumb immediately follows him. And he's got blood flying in his face because he's been hit in the face.
In the face with a bludger.
Lynch hits the ground, and Crumb gets the snitch. Ireland wins. 170-160.
Crumb gets the snitch. The Weasley twins were on it.
It was a very abrupt ending, and the Weasley twins are like, hey, you owe us a shit ton of gold.
Yeah, and everyone is just like losing their mind. The game is over. The snitch is caught. Everybody is celebrating for Ireland because the UK doesn't care about Ireland unless it's the Quidditch World Cup.
Yes. So after the game, everyone is like kind of celebrating and partying.
Yeah, they hear a big noise and they think it's more celebrations, but it's...
Well, they go back to their tents to go to bed because it's late. And then they wake, they're woken up by noise,
and they
thinking
think it's still
the celebration
Irish
has
celebrating.
gone off again.
And it's
but
not.
But it's not. No, unfortunately, what has happened outside is that there is a series of wizards in masks.
In dark robes.
And dark robes who have kidnapped the muggles who live on the...
who run the
edge of the grounds. And they are, like
causing chaos.
The man who lives on the grounds and his wife and their 2 children literally are like carrying them around in the air like marionettes on strings, and they're also trampling down tents. It's not good.
And causing chaos. And Arthur Weasley knows he has to go and help the Ministry, because security has been super tight for this thing, because it's the Quidditch World Cup. People came from all over the world, so they wanted to like make a good impression and stuff, and so having this happen is bad. And so he goes to do the ministry. He gets the kids and tells them, hey, go run and hide in the forest. And when they're in the forest, Harry realizes he's lost his wand. His wand is missing. And then suddenly they
run into Draco Malfoy in the woods.
They run into Draco Malfoy.
And
because of course.
And there is an implication that his dad is one of the people in the masks.
Yeah, but then everybody...
But they can't find Fred, George, and Ginny, and they get separated. But
everybody loses their mind when this big
green skull flies up into the sky.
With a snake coming out of its mouth appears in the sky, and everybody loses their mind.
Yes, and also during this time, they run into Winky.
Yes.
Who's trying to avoid getting trampled, but she can't go far because she didn't ask for permission to try and escape. And so that makes Hermione very angry.
Which it should.
And then this sign goes into the sky, and Hermione says it's the Dark Mark. It's whose sign, used by him and his followers.
Known as Death Eaters.
And so Ron, Hermione, and Harry get surrounded by all of these Aurors.
Yes, because
they're right where the mark was shot up at.
Yeah.
And
there's this big interrogation. Winky appears with a wand that happens to be Harry's.
And that wand was last used. There's a spell you can use on a wand to see what the last spell that it was used to do. And it was in fact used to make the Dark Mark. And so then Crouch is accusing Harry of it, and then everyone else is like,
"That's Harry fucking
really
Potter.
Accusing Harry Potter?
Harry freaking Potter, who stopped the Dark Lord of creating the Dark Mark." And then they think Winky did it. Mm-hmm. And so in rage and horror, Barty Crouch removes Winky from his service.
Yeah, he fires her.
Yeah. He sets her free, and she's just beside herself. She's very upset about it. And then the ministry is in complete and utter chaos for the next couple of days, and nothing gets resolved at the ministry before our trio head back to Hogwarts for the year.
Yeah.
So
it's a whole mess.
It is. It's a whole mess. And so when they get back to Hogwarts, it is announced that this year, with the help of the ministry,
they're bringing back an old tradition called the Triwizarding Tournament. Yes,
the Triwizard Tournament, where 3 schools will compete for the Triwizard Championship. Each school will have 1 champion to be chosen on Halloween.
And this is the first time that
we hear about other wizarding schools.
Have told us about other wizarding schools. At the Quidditch World Cup, Hermione mentions Beauxbatons, which is a French school, and they also see some students from the Salem School of Magic in America.
Yes.
Which later, I guess, gets changed because of whatever happened on Pottermore. But
there has to be more than 1 wizarding school in the United States.
Obviously,
there has to be.
Obviously, it's far too large, and the amount of students that go to Hogwarts.
Even if you just had 1 wizarding school per state, I feel like that would be pushing it.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, the United States is much bigger than...
Do you have any idea how big California is?
Yeah, I do.
Like, seriously.
I don't know why you're telling me this. I'm not JK Rowling. Take it up with her. But yes. So, they go back to school. They find out, first off, that the Triwizard Tournament is going to be happening.
Yes.
They meet their new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
They're also not allowed to enter the Triwizard Tournament unless they are 17 or older.
Right, you have to be of age. So, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are right out. And then they also meet... Coming in late to the first feast,
Mad-Eye Moody.
The new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Mad-Eye Moody. He's called this because half of his nose and one of his eyes was taken out in a battle with a dark wizard.
Yes.
And he now wears a glass eyeball strapped into the socket.
Yeah, and he
rolls around magically.
Or the Wizard Cops.
Yeah, he was an Auror for many, many years and has now come to Hogwarts to be the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
Yes.
So it's going to be a very interesting year at Hogwarts.
Oh yes, for sure.
And
they go to they have their first day of classes, and everybody just loves Moody. They're like, his lessons are really interesting.
Yeah, Harry and Ron, Hermione, the Gryffindors haven't been to Defense Against Dark Arts yet, but everyone else who has is talking about how amazing Mad-Eye Moody is.
Yeah, and that's also, the Mad-Eye Moody chapter is also when we start getting articles from the Daily Prophet, which is the Wizard newspaper.
Yes.
And all of them are skewed.
Oh,
from what we know is the truth.
Before we get to Mad-Eye Moody's class, we forgot a crucial element.
Yes.
So, before they have class with Mad-Eye Moody, Harry, Ron, and Hermione have an encounter with Mad-Eye Moody in the courtyard.
Yes!
How could you forget?
How could I forget that?
Because
I was going off my cliff notes.
Their first interaction with Mad-Eye Moody, they think that he is yelling at them, but he is yelling at Crabbe and Goyle because apparently Malfoy, who was with them, attempted to hex Harry when he turned his back.
When Harry's back was turned. And so Mad-Eye Moody turned him into a bouncing ferret.
He turned him into a ferret and started bouncing him up and down off the ground.
And that's when McGonagall shows up and she's like, is that a student? He's like, technically, it's a ferret. That line is not in the books, it's in the movie, but oh my god, that was a good line.
She releases Malfoy and it's like, we don't use transfiguration as a punishment. I'm sure Dumbledore told you this when he hired you.
And he's like, he might have mentioned it. Just a little bit.
And
but then
Malfoy says something about, my father will hear about this, and Moody says, oh, I know your
don't
father.
Talk to me about your father,
I know
boy.
your father, which is another
He's like, go ask him about the Death Eaters, you know.
Yeah, it's another implication that Malfoy Sr. is involved with Voldemort's followers. So anyway, after that they're very excited to go to his class.
So they do his first class, which...
Oof.
Oh, it's a rough class.
So, this is the first time we learn anything about laws. Really anything in depth about laws within the wizarding world. We learn about the unforgivable curses.
And there are 3 of them.
There are 3 of them. There is one called the Imperious Curse, which puts someone under your control.
Yeah. You take away their will.
There's one called the Cruciatus Curse, which is basically a torture curse. And then there is the Killing Curse.
Yes, which only one person has ever survived, and it's Harry.
So, Moody performs these curses, all 3 of them,
on
spiders in the classroom, which is really fucked up to do to any 14-year-olds, but Neville and Harry take it particularly hard.
Yeah.
Neville watches the enlarged spider that Moody is torturing for quite some time, kind of like on the verge of a breakdown, before Hermione notices and insists that Moody stop.
This is the book that we
find out what happened to Neville's parents.
That the reason Neville Longbottom is raised by his grandmother was because Frank and Alice Longbottom, Neville's parents, were both Aurors, and they were tortured to the point of insanity by Bellatrix Lestrange. And there are some implications later in the book that show that Neville was there when it happened. He heard it.
Yeah.
And so seeing that happen
in a place
where he's supposed to be safe.
Moody knows it. Moody knows it.
Moody knows what happened to his parents.
He asks for volunteers to tell him names of one of the 3 curses.
Yeah.
Hermione and Neville raise their hands. He calls on Neville, and Neville says that he looks down at his roll call and says, "You're Neville Longbottom."
Yeah. And
then goes on with it.
And he's like, you'd be really familiar with that one.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. And this is when it's like, no wonder Neville is always nervous.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
That is trauma with a capital T.
And then he performs the Killing Curse on the last spider. And Harry...
he says only one person in the wizarding world is known to survive this curse, and he's sitting in this room.
Yep. It's really not a way to treat children.
No, it's not a good way, but he's like, he keeps screaming constant vigilance, and he's like, you need to know what you are facing. He's really trying to force them to grow up.
Well, and then he does pull Neville into his office for a
afterward,
cup of tea.
when Neville is clearly very, very bothered.
He asks Neville and Harry if they're fine, and he takes Neville into his office for some tea, and wants to show him some books, and Harry doesn't go.
Mad-Eye lends him a book to kind of, because Harry's like, later Neville seemed like in much better spirits. And then the night before Halloween, we discover that the schools, Beauxbatons and Durmstrang are going to arrive.
Yeah, Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. So Beauxbatons is in France.
I always switch the
and Durmstrang is an Eastern European school.
Yes.
We're not ever given the exact location of that school.
No, we're not supposed to. No.
Now, Durmstrang has now, if you've only seen the movies,
they're co-ed schools.
They look like they are single gender schools.
Co-ed schools.
But in the book, they are in fact co-ed schools. In the movie, it's made to be that they're not. But anyway, these students come in. The Durmstrang students are led by their headmaster, Karkaroff.
Karkaroff, yeah.
And
Igor Karkaroff.
Madame Maxime is the headmistress of Beauxbatons.
Yes.
She is a huge woman. And I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean that in a she appears to be half giant way. She's as big as Hagrid is.
And also, too, at this time, Sirius has come back into the country because he's worried about Harry.
He's very worried about Harry.
Because there's rumors of other things going on in the wizarding world that he's not comfortable.
So anyway, these students come in, and they, and one of these students from Durmstrang is
Victor Crumb.
Victor Crumb, the seeker for the, because no one thought he was still at school, but turns out he's still at school. He just does the Quidditch thing in his off time.
Off time? Yeah, off time.
Anyway, Ron is obsessed. Very excited.
Obsessed. All the girls are obsessed with him.
Well, not Hermione.
Not Hermione.
Hermione's not impressed.
Hermione's not impressed.
And the Durmstrang boys are sitting, or the Durmstrang kids are sitting at the Slytherin table, which makes Ron very jealous. And then the Goblet of Fire is brought in. It is a large goblet with a blue flame coming out of it.
Yes.
Dumbledore draws a magical age line around it. Says, if you want to enter the tournament, be aware this is a binding magical contract. It is a big deal. You cannot get out of it. So think about it seriously before you put your name in. You've got to be over 17. You just write your name and your school on a piece of paper and put it into the fire.
And then the goblet will select the champions on at the Halloween feast.
So a lot of people put their names in. Fred and George attempt to put their names in, but they are not yet 17.
No, they're a couple months away from turning 17.
They're just a couple months from 17. They try to pass the barrier.
Their birthday is April 1st.
They try to pass the barrier, and they are bounced back out with massive beards, which is Dumbledore's idea of a joke.
But the next night we get...
Next night, the champions
are announced. From Beauxbatons, we have Fleur Delacour.
Fleur Delacour, who's a beautiful blonde bombshell.
Yes.
The Durmstrang champion is
Victor Crumb.
The Hogwarts champion is Cedric
Diggory from Hufflepuff.
And then the
goblet,
think
they're done.
Predictably, lights up again while Dumbledore is trying to talk to the champions and spits out another piece of parchment. And
it's Harry
Potter.
Surprise,
surprise, it's Harry Potter. So there are only supposed to be 3 champions. That's why it's called the Triwizard Tournament. Yes. But now we've got 4. And so Dumbledore asks Harry that they all get shepherded off into a room.
And it's a big screaming match, and everyone is very upset because they think this is, we'll relight the goblet until each school has 2 champions, because this was all supposed to be about wizard unity. And now Hogwarts has 2 champions, and the other schools only have 1, so they think Hogwarts is trying to cheat, and they want to know, if Harry just got favored by Dumbledore. And Dumbledore calmly asks Harry if he put his name in the Goblet of Fire. And Harry says no. And he's like, well, there you have it. And they have to keep going forward because the Goblet of Fire will not light until the next Triwizard Tournament. So they just have to continue with 4 champions. And it's magically binding. Harry can't get out of it.
No, he doesn't want to do it.
And so this event causes a huge fight between Ron and Harry. Because Ron
thinks
is
Harry figured out a way to get over the line.
Yeah, he's like, I thought you would at least tell your best friend.
Yeah.
And this is also after, we've skimmed over this because there's so much in this book, but...
Moody suggests that someone put Harry's name in the goblet to try and kill him.
Yes.
Which some of the teachers, like Karkaroff and Snape, think is overdramatic. And other teachers like McGonagall
probably.
and Dumbledore buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, but this fight, Ron thinks Harry found a way past the age line. Harry is like, no, honestly, I didn't. And Ron has kind of been having a rough year because he has had to get, dress robes and they've had to be secondhand, and he's like, I hate being poor. And he's still under all of his brother's shadows, and Ron's just having an issue with it. And he's like, well, Harry always gets all the glory all the time, and so it just kind of came to a head here.
Jealous.
He's jealous, which is fine. Mm-hmm. It happens in friendships.
And, Hermione and Hagrid are on Harry's side. They believe him.
Yeah, they believe Harry didn't do it. And then we are introduced to a very vile woman named Rita Skeeter.
Yes, and they do. They have the weighing of the wands, so they have Mr. Ollivander, who owns the wand shop, come in and take a look at all of the champions' wands to make sure they're in good shape for the upcoming task.
And when that happens, they're like, we're just going to run a little article in the Daily Prophet about it. No big deal. Rita Skeeter is there, and she is a journalist for the Daily Prophet, and she is awful.
She's an absolute viper of a woman.
She's a viper of a woman.
She's very, very dramatic. She really doesn't have a lot of sympathy for the people that she's writing about, so she makes them look like whatever.
She blows everything out of proportion. She makes whatever Harry spin on it to make it sell.
She tends to make Harry a bit of a tragic figure here. Because that will sell, and
yeah, exactly. She writes what sells. She doesn't write the truth. She writes what sells.
Which her
articles throughout the course of the year become a major problem for multiple characters in this book.
Yeah. And we also find out Fleur is part Vila at this point.
Yes, Fleur's grandmother was a Vila. So she's like a quarter?
She has one of her grandmother's hairs in her wand.
Yes. And then also, too, you have a majority of Hogwarts who have turned against Harry.
They're all wearing Potter Stinks badges.
Potter Stinks badges, support Cedric Diggory, the true Hogwarts champion. That kind of a thing. All the Slytherins are into it because they're like, we'd rather support Hufflepuff than,
And
Gryffindor.
Sirius is now very worried about Harry.
Yes.
He says that we're going to have a conversation in the Gryffindor common room at midnight.
Yes.
He doesn't explain how he's going to be there. But Harry is nervous about it, but also,
that's
what's
in 2 weeks'
getting
time,
him
we're
through.
going to have a conversation, be in the Gryffindor common room, I need to talk to you. And so they, especially when Sirius finds out that Harry's name came out of the Goblet of Fire, Sirius is like, yep, someone's trying to kill my godson.
Yeah.
But then Hagrid takes Harry one night somewhere to, he's like, just wear your invisibility cloak and don't say anything. And Harry finds out his first task is dragons.
Charlie Weasley is helping to manage the dragons for the Triwizard Tournament. Each of the champions is going to have to get a golden egg from the dragons and escape
with it. And so Harry, rightfully, is scared shitless.
Now, Hagrid, it's interesting that Hagrid is chosen to help Harry cheat, because the champions are specifically not supposed to cheat. But
and they're not supposed to know.
And there's a lot of cheating going around.
Yeah, a lot of cheating. Like, Hagrid takes Madame Maxine to see the dragons.
Which means that she's definitely going to tell Fleur.
She's going to definitely tell Fleur. But Hagrid does that because he's sweet on her.
And Harry sees Victor Crumb in the woods, too.
Yeah.
Which means that all of the champions, except for Cedric Diggory, know about the dragons.
Dragons.
So Harry, being the morally upright gentleman that he is,
tells Cedric it's
Diggory.
dragons. Our first task is dragons.
And then he gets to talk to Sirius via fireplace.
Yeah, and Sirius is about to tell Harry how to get past a dragon when Harry hears somebody walking into the Gryffindor common room. And so they have to cut off the conversation really quickly, and he turns around, and it's Ron. And Harry gets really mad and upset with him, but also at the same time, he's like, Ron can't have known what he interrupted because I didn't tell him because we're not talking to each other, but at the same time, I'm still really mad at him because does he really think I really want to do this? I don't. I don't want to fight a dragon. I don't want to do all this glory. I just want the world to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so their friendship has hit an all-time low, but they don't have any time to repair it because the first task is upon them.
But at any rate, Cedric, he tells Cedric about it, and they go into well, before they go into it, Harry has tea with Moody. And
yes.
Moody
is like, how are you going to get past this dragon?
And Harry's like freaked out about it.
I don't know. And Moody is like, well, everyone else is going to have a thing that plays to their strength. And so Harry and Hermione practice the summoning charm, so Harry is able to summon his broom and fly.
So basically Moody gives him the key he needs to figure out to solve it. So they practice the summoning charm for the next whole day. And then they go into the first task.
Yes.
Each of them is given a dragon.
A small, tiny dragon.
They have to draw them out of a bag to determine which of the real dragons they will be fighting.
And what order they will go in.
Harry
pulls the nastiest, the Hungarian horntail, which is also the last one. So, have you ever done like a thing where it's like you're going to perform or something like that and you're last? Mm-hmm. It's the worst feeling in the world. I hate it.
Yep. And so Harry summons his broom and flies around the dragon, gets its head up, and dives down and gets the egg. He does it without being injured. He gets his broom a little set on fire, I think, but...
Yeah, a little singed. So, like in the movie where the dragon escapes and chases him around a castle, but no.
That's cinematic liberties.
No. So he does it. Gryffindor celebrates like crazy.
They get their scores.
Yeah.
First Ron bursts in. It's like, there's no way you did this on purpose.
I'm really sorry. Yeah, there's no way you did this on purpose. I mean, like, because I think Ron is like, my friend could have died today and been eaten by a dragon.
And Harry and Crumb tie for first place.
Yes.
It is interesting to note that Little Bagman gives Harry 10 points.
Yes.
Even though he singed his broom. Madame
Maxime Cockcroft gives him 4.
Yeah, Madame Maxime gives him 8. Dumbledore gives him 9, which both seem like fair scores.
Yeah.
Ludo gives him 10, which is not exactly fair.
No.
But it's in his favor. And then Karkaroff gives him a 4, which is very unfair.
Yeah, very unfair.
But he is still tied for first place with Crumb. Mm-hmm. And things are much better for Harry at this point because he's got his best friend back.
His best friend is back. He's made up with Ron. And Hermione's, Hermione's political side has been coming out slowly so far throughout this book.
Winky has really activated it. Like, seeing Winky and how she was treated by Barty Crouch.
Winky's situation has enraged Hermione to create Spew.
Society for the Protection of Elfish Welfare.
Yep.
Because elves are treated as second-class citizens, kept as basically slaves.
Yeah, slave labor.
Don't get any of the same rights that wizards do, even though they're just as magical as wizards.
Yes, they are. They're just as magical.
It's and like she even talks about at one point, like the same thing happened to goblins at one point too.
Yeah, and then we had the Goblin rebellions.
Right, because the goblins were like, no, we're not fucking putting up with this shit. So Hermione is determined to help the house elves get their rights and their freedoms.
And so she constantly is sneaking down to the kitchens to try and talk the elves into asking for like pay and time off and benefits, and the only one who seems to listen to her is Dobby.
Dobby is now working in the kitchens at Hogwarts ever since he has been freed by Lucius Malfoy. And Winky is also working in the kitchens after being fired by Barty Crouch.
Yeah, and he gets a paycheck and all the socks he can buy, and
he's pretty happy.
Yeah, he's pretty darn happy.
Yeah.
Winky is not.
Winky is miserable.
Winky's absolutely miserable. And then the other house elves in the kitchen are just happy to puddle along.
Yep. So it's so she is kind of dealing with that, but the other thing they're dealing with is that the golden egg that Harry retrieved from the dragon
every time
has a seam along it, and when you open it, it screams.
Bloody murder.
It makes a screeching, wailing noise that is horrible, loud, filling the room.
And so Harry's like, that's okay. I don't have to worry about this until February. If you ever feel bad about procrastinating, Harry Potter, everybody. And then they find out that on Christmas night, there is going to be the Yule Ball.
The Yule Ball.
And the champions and their dates have to open the floor.
They have to start the dance.
So
and Harry
now,
realizes now that he has to get a date. Even if he doesn't want to. So, there's a bit of franticness about this.
Why do they always have to travel in packs?
He wants to ask Cho Chang.
He does. He wants to ask Cho Chang.
He's had a crush on Cho Chang since he played her in Quidditch the year before.
Yes.
And he wants to ask her. And when he finally
does ask her,
gets the courage up to ask her, Cedric Diggory has already asked her.
Yeah, she's already going with Cedric. And so he's devastated. Ron tries to ask Hermione as a last resort, which does not go well.
No, because it's like Hermione's like, well, first off, I've already been asked.
And I said yes.
And second off, I don't know why it took you getting no's from everybody else in the class before you realized that I'm actually a girl that you could ask to the dance.
Yeah.
Like, this is the first time, well, not the first time, but this is probably the most significant point so far that we start to see tension between Ron and Hermione.
Yeah, and she says no, and they're all like, oh, well, and Harry's like, I could always ask Jenny, and Ron's like, no, she's already gone with Neville.
Yeah, Jenny's already got a date, too.
Yeah, and she's like, well, I thought I'd say yes because I didn't think anybody else would ask me. And because it was supposed to be to 4th years and above.
Yeah, and she's pretty sad about this because, of course, she has the huge crush on Harry.
Yeah.
And Harry essentially asks the Patil twins
to go with him and Ron.
It's kind of pathetic. He asks Padma and is like, hey, would your sister, or Parvati, and he says, hey, would your sister Padma be willing to go with Ron?
Yeah.
She says, fine.
Sure.
And so Padma Patil and Parvati Patil are going with Ron and Harry to the Yule Ball. So everyone's just kind of partying.
Yeah, partying it up. The Patil twins abandon their fuddy-duddy dates for nice Durmstrang boys. Mm-hmm. Which, fair.
Hermione.
And they find out Hermione, like, at first, Harry does not recognize her. She's in a beautiful blue gown.
She's got her hair straightened out.
Oh, we skipped something that pisses me off. Earlier before the Yule Ball. About the teeth.
That was a long time ago.
I know it was a long time ago, but Hermione has magically shrunk her teeth because she was bullied about her front 2 teeth to the point where even, like, somebody cast, like, a horrible spell on her to make them grow and grow and grow. And Severus fucking Snape is like, I see no difference.
Spell rebounded into her face in potions class.
Yeah. Severus fucking Snape is like, I see no difference. And I'm like, you're bullying a 14-year-old girl, you twat.
We've been through this. Anyway, she's shrunk her teeth to slightly below where they started.
She slicked her hair back. She's in a beautiful gown. And Harry didn't realize it was Hermione until she spoke. And he's like, that's Hermione.
And she's with her date.
Who happens to be Victor Crumb.
So, Ron does a full 180 on his feelings about Victor Crumb.
Full 180.
He completely loses it. He's clearly very, very, like, jealous of Hermione's relationship with Crumb.
Well, and I think he's also jealous of Crumb for being with Hermione.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, he's like, I mean...
And we now discover that the reason Crumb was in the library all the time was because that's where Hermione was, and he was trying to get up the courage to talk to her.
Yeah.
Which, Victor Crumb is a sweet character, and he gets a bad rap.
He's boring. I mean, he's a nice guy, but he's pretty boring. He's pretty uninteresting. Like, other than being, like, a Quidditch champion, whatever.
Yeah. But, during this Yule Ball, Ron and Harry... go out to do something. I can't remember what it is.
They go out into the Rose Garden where Fleur Delacour is making out with Roger Davies in a bush. Yeah. And they hide in a bush because they hear Snape and Karkaroff having a conversation. Yeah. And that is that something is getting darker and more visible by every day, and that he is concerned. And
Karkaroff seems concerned about it, and Snape is like, shut up.
So basically, Snape Snape and Karkaroff have some kind of connection. It seems to have something to do with Voldemort.
Yeah, and also while we're there, we hear Hagrid talking to Madame Maxine, and he's like, I didn't think I'd ever meet another one. And then they find out that Hagrid is half giant.
Yep. And she's
like, I'm just big boned.
Yeah.
And gets furious and walks off. And then we get another instance of prejudice in the wizarding world where people are not happy about giants. They were hunted to near extinction because they have quote-unquote violent natures. To me, it just sounds like pit bulls. It's like, there's nothing wrong with pit bulls if you don't, there are no bad dogs, just bad dog owners.
Well, giants don't really come in nice flavors. Like, giants are not very smart.
Usually
they're pretty
not.
violent. And it's not very common for them to have children with humans.
Yeah.
But when they do, those humans are met with extreme prejudice.
Yeah.
Similar to the prejudice that goblins and house elves experience.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why it was so easy for Hagrid to be blamed for and expelled for the opening of the Chamber of Secrets.
Even though he had
when
nothing
he was
to do
in
with
school. It's kind of a situation of like, if you had a kid who had no bad record,
it's
but they're,
it's racism.
So,
and then the very next day.
Well, no. At the end of the U-Ball, Cedric Diggory runs up to Harry. He does not want to talk to him because he's jealous that he took Cho, but Cedric tells him he
take a bath with the egg.
should take a bath with his egg and gives him the password to the prefix bathroom.
Yeah.
Which Harry's just like, how is this
helpful?
How is this equal to what I gave you? Like, this is not helpful in any way, shape, or form. Ron and Hermione get into a huge fight.
Yes.
At the end of the dance because Ron says something snarky about Victor Crumb. And Hermione's like, maybe if you had considered me as a possible date instead of like a last resort, you could have taken me to the dance. Completely being a dick about this. And Ron's like, well, she missed the point of what I was saying, blah, blah, blah. And Harry's like, I don't think...
well, if you don't like it, you know what the solution is, don't you? He's like, yeah, what's that? Next time there's a ball, ask me before someone else does and not as a last resort. Well, that just proves completely missed the point. And he's like, bullshit, I've been called out.
Yeah, and Harry doesn't say anything because he likes being back on speaking terms with Ron, but he kind of agrees with Hermione.
Yeah, and
now,
but it's not, he leaves Hermione crying hysterically on the bottom stairs. Hermione holds her own.
Well, I mean, I don't think Hermione crying in the movie is like a negative thing. Like, some people get that way when they fight. No, it's not a negative thing. Like, I have plenty of other complaints about how the movies portray the characters, and that is not one of them.
Whoever wrote the script for the fourth movie absolutely, clearly hates Ron. Yeah,
Ron gets a bad rap in all of the movies.
Ron
but
got
the fourth
done
one is probably
real
the worst.
Dirty in the fourth movie.
So anyway,
after the Yule Ball, they get another article from Rita Skeeter about quote-unquote Dumbledore's giant mistake, and it's all about Hagrid being half giant.
Somehow she overheard Hagrid talking to Madame Maxime, and she has reported it to the news, which now has got Dumbledore in trouble with school governors.
Yes.
Only the dick ones, like Lucius Malfoy.
Yeah.
And it's got Hagrid being treated like shit by, like, the Slytherins. But
yeah. And everyone is like, how did she hear that? How did she find out about it? Because she is not allowed on school grounds.
Yeah. And then they have somebody else. They have a substitute in
Care of Magical
Creatures because of it.
And the second task is drawing ever nearer, and
Harry is
finally swallows his pride and does what Cedric tells him to do. So he goes to the prefect's bathroom.
Big fancy bathtub. My dream bathtub
I know! With like several different faucets with bubbles and shit.
The size of a lapse pool.
Oh god, I want one.
And it's got 15 billion different faucets with different shapes, sizes, scents of bubbles that come out of it.
And a stained glass of a mermaid.
Yep, it's very
it sounds
cool.
Lovely. Although, I, like Harry, would also not enjoy the ghost of a dead girl interrupting my bath time.
Yeah, Moaning Myrtle pops up in the bath and is like, watching Harry, and she's like, I saw Cedric Diggory come in before and he put his egg underwater. And so Harry opens the egg up underwater, and underwater he can hear a riddle come out of the egg.
Yes.
He memorizes the riddle, and then
he
realizes
there's merpeople in the lake, and they are going to take his most precious object, and he has an hour to retrieve it, and that is the second task. So he needs something that will let him breathe for an hour underwater.
Because he's going to have to retrieve something precious of his from the lake. So, anyway, now that he knows, he goes to Hermione. He's like, I just now figured it out.
Yeah.
And she's mad.
And she's like, you told me you had it figured out weeks ago. He's like, well, I lied.
The person who ends up helping Harry, in this case, is Neville Longbottom.
Well, it's Dobby.
Well, yes, Dobby.
In the book. Yeah.
Well, but Dobby gets him the gillyweed, but Neville's the one who gives him the idea.
Yeah. Neville
has been reading a book about magical plants, and
given to him by Mad Eye. And
he says, you could just use gillyweed. It'll give you gills and fins.
This apparently is the age I started drinking coffee.
He says using gillyweed can give you gills and fins and the ability to breathe underwater. And if you could just get some gillyweed, that would be the easiest way to solve this task. And so Dobby is the one who steals the gillyweed for him.
And Harry doesn't ask him to. Harry is like researching up until the night before the task, and he still hasn't found anything. And Dobby is just like, in the morning, Dobby is like, here you go,
take
this.
Here's the gillyweed.
This will help you. This will help Mr. Potter get his Wheezies back.
Yeah. And he's like, what is my Wheezies? What are you talking about?
Yeah, his Wheezies.
And turns out there's not an item in the lake.
It's a person.
It's Ron.
So, and Harry almost misses the start of the second task.
Yeah.
So he shows up, shoves the gillyweed in his mouth.
He's literally just like fallen asleep on books in the fucking library. Shows up in like jeans worn from the day before, just like goes straight into the lake, just like in his
Which, if
boxers.
That is not like college mood, I don't know what is.
Yeah, he literally
college finals.
He just like shows up and like just stumbles into the lake. And
he grows gills and fins, and then he can swim.
And he has to swim down, and he sees Fleur and Cedric both using bubblehead charms to create a bubble around their head so that they can go into the water. And Crumb has half transfigured himself into a shark.
And so Harry gets to the bottom of the lake where the merpeople are guarding the treasures. Four people. One is Ron Weasley, Cho Chang, a blonde girl who he assumes is Fleur's person, and Hermione Granger. And
so he tries to take both. He's the
Ron
first one there. He tries to take both Ron and Hermione. The merpeople will not let him. Luckily, Crumb arrives just seconds after him.
And takes Hermione.
And then Cedric arrives.
Yes,
and takes Cho. And Harry's still standing there because Harry's an idiot. And is just like, I'm not going to leave this 10-year-old child down here.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to let this kid die down here.
And so he fights off the mermaids and takes this little girl as well.
He takes Ron and this little girl.
And he's like, he ends up being the last one in.
He's well outside the 1 hour time limit, but they see Dumbledore talking to the king and the merpeople. And he's like, yeah, this idiot showed up first, but he stayed to make sure everybody got rescued.
Which they decide is in
extra points for valor.
In keeping with the
Yeah, so now Harry and Cedric are tied for first place.
Yeah. Yep. Fleur doesn't finish, so she only gets 25 points. Cedric gets 47 points. He's the first one, 1 hour, 1 minute outside of the time limit. Crumb gets 40 points, returning second. Harry Potter returned last, well outside of the time limit, but it was because he wanted to save all of the hostages. And they feel that shows moral fiber in Merritt's full remarks, and they give him 45 points, only 2 points less than Cedric.
But this is a huge attitude change for Fleur.
Yeah, she is so appreciative.
You saved my little sister.
Yeah, her little sister Gabriella was the final person, and of course they wouldn't have actually let this child drown in the lake.
No.
But
And Harry's like, that was real dumb of me.
Well, Harry's not the only one that thought that way. Fleur thought that way too. Like,
yeah,
she was
she
freaking
thought
out.
her little sister was lost.
Like, all of the champions thought, like, that's it. Like, I mean, which is kind of crazy that they just let these, like, children think that they're going to murder them.
Yeah, this is the Hunger Games with magic, people.
Yeah, like, and the kids are taking this 100% seriously, and the adults are like, we have, like, safety precautions in place or whatever.
And everyone else is like, bullshit. But yeah, after that, they have a little interlude where they do meet up with Sirius and Hogsmeade.
Yeah, because he's real stressed about this.
Yeah, he's real stressed about it, and he talks to Harry about what things were like before, and, you know, you couldn't tell your friends from Death Eaters back then, which was proven by Wormtail's betrayal.
We also have a bit with Snape, who accuses Harry of stealing from his private stores.
Yeah, and he's like, I have Veritaserum. It's
yeah,
Truth Serum.
We're introduced to the Truth Serum, which is a very, very powerful.
I'll just slip some in your
potion.
pumpkin juice one morning, and you'll not be able to shut up.
And
which, dude, you're threatening a 14-year-old.
Yeah, but Harry's not the one who stole from his private stores. It was Dobby. But
well, we also find out
Harry.
that Sirius's private stores keep depleting, Severus's private stores keep depleting, and he thinks Harry's brewing Polyjuice Potion.
Which Harry has not done since his second year.
Since second year.
So it's very strange.
And even then, in second year, he wasn't the one who stole it. Hermione was.
Right, and Harry actually misunderstands. He thinks that Snape is talking about the Boomslang skin from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize that Boomslang skin has been stolen recently.
Constantly.
What is this?
I don't know. Looks
anyway.
Like muddy handprints. Well-loved books, guys. Well-loved books. So then Sirius pretty much tells Harry, if your scar hurts again, go straight to Dumbledore.
He also tells Harry, like, he wants to know about who the people are who are involved in the Triwizarding Tournament. He tells him about Ludo Bagman, which Sirius doesn't know. He tells him about Barty Crouch, and Sirius says Barty Crouch had a son who was tried as a Death Eater and died in Azkaban. I don't know if Barty Crouch, I don't know if his son was a Death Eater. I don't know what Barty Crouch's connection to that could be, but the fact that he had a son who was arrested for being a Death Eater is suspicious, so you should be careful of him.
And he tried to distance himself from that so much because his ambition was to become the Minister of Magic.
Yeah, but his wife and his son both son died in Azkaban, and his wife died within a year of that. And so he lost all of his ambitions, kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah.
So
after that little visit, Rita Skeeter strikes again, writing an article about Hermione being a harlot.
Right, using love potions.
Yeah, to the point where Hermione is getting hate mail, like angry hate mail and howlers. Mm-hmm. Which is just awful. Which I'm like, you see it now, where like if a celebrity like starts dating someone and their fangirls are like, oh no, they just start bashing on this person for no fucking reason other than they're dating their future husband who has no idea they exist, kind of a thing. Whatever. So it's like, it's really awful. Like Hermione is like getting physically injured from this hate mail.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's pushing it, guys.
So
calm down.
At any rate, they go to visit the house elves again, and they try to get more information out of Winky about Barty Crouch.
And Winky keeps her master's secrets.
She's very, very drunk, and she's very unhappy, and she is also still considers herself Barty Crouch's house elf, so she's not going to divulge any of his secrets.
Yeah, but they talk about they get the three champions are told about the third task, which is a maze, and then they Crumb kind of pulls Harry to the side, and he's like, what's going on between you and Hermione? And Harry's like, nothing, not at all. And they're behind Hagrid's hut by the edge of the forest, and Crumb is like, oh, okay, so there's nothing going on between you and Hermione. He's like, no, there never was anything going on between me
Gross.
and Hermione. And yeah, gross. She's my sister. And while they're there talking and just kind of clearing the air between them, Barty Crouch shows up. And he's...
Barty Crouch, who has, up to this point, been missing, sending Percy in his place.
Because he's been ill.
He's taking a break. He's been sending in owls with instructions.
And he is ranting and raving like a lunatic. And so Harry leaves Crouch with Crumb to run up to the castle to get Dumbledore because Barty Crouch is asking for Dumbledore. He's like, I have to talk to Dumbledore. Yeah, he's just like running around.
He's like muttering to himself. Poor Crumb is like, I really don't.
Yeah.
And
he's like,
Snape is the one who catches Harry running into the castle.
Yeah, trying to get into Dumbledore's office. And Snape is like, what are you doing now? And he's like really weird about, he's like being a dick about it. And then Dumbledore shows up and Harry's like, Barty Crouch is on the edge of the forest. He told me to come get you. He said
something about Voldemort.
Yeah.
And Dumbledore, is completely, fine. And he comes with him and he said, I left him with Victor Crumb out here. And they find Crumb unconscious on the floor, and Barty Crouch is gone.
And Crumb doesn't remember what happens. And then Moody shows up, and he's like, we'll search the forest.
Yeah, Hagrid goes to get Professor Karkaroff. Professor Moody goes to look for Barty Crouch. It's a whole thing. They never find Barty Crouch.
No, they never find Barty Crouch. And so Harry goes to his next...
Karkaroff spits at Dumbledore.
Yeah, Karkaroff spits at Dumbledore.
And Hagrid about kills him.
Because he thinks it was a
trick.
A trick by Hogwarts to try and win the championship, and Hagrid nearly kills him. And, but then... Harry doesn't really have too much time to dwell on it because he's got classes the next day.
This is interesting in retrospect. Because I just think of this scene. I think of this scene of Karkaroff spitting at Dumbledore and Hagrid flinging him up against this tree. And then I think of that scene of the Caro brother, one of the Caros.
Yes.
Spitting at McGonagall, and Harry uses the Cruciatus curse on him, and she's like, "That was uncalled for." And he's like, "Professor, he spat at you." It's just like, no.
It's very baby duckling being like, "Don't touch my mama." But yeah, that is very much how it's very much how Hagrid feels about Dumbledore, because Dumbledore gave Hagrid a place when no one else would. So Hagrid owes everything to Dumbledore. So of course he's going to protect him fiercely. But the next...
And they never find Barty Crouch. They're trying to figure out something about Voldemort getting stronger.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out what he was talking about.
It's concerning, to say the least.
No one knows. And so Harry ends up in his divination class.
And then, of course, Ron... Wait, sidebar.
Yes,
Ron has to, of course... be like, do you think Snape kept you
purposely kept
on
you
on purpose?
Yeah.
So that he could, and I'm like, so what? He could sneak down there and murder them? Yeah. I mean, Snape's a dick, but
there's
Ron,
no way he could do that.
Ron is just constantly like, it's Snape's fault.
Yes.
Whatever it is, it's Snape's fault.
It's always Snape's fault. Guys, it's Snape and it's Draco, and it's never Snape and Draco until it is Snape and Draco.
Until it is.
Spoiler alert.
And, blah, blah, blah.
Can you really spoil Harry Potter anymore?
I don't know, but we're an hour and 10 minutes into this thing. We're not doing very well. So,
I even took notes. And
the third task, thank God, is not a big secret with a riddle.
Okay.
They just are like...
Harry has a dream and divination class, and he wakes up with his scar hurting, so he goes to Dumbledore. He gets trapped in the pensieve, which allows you to look at your old memories, and he sees the trial of Barty Crouch Jr.
Yes.
That's the next thing that happens.
Sorry, I was thinking about David Tennant.
It's very difficult to not think about David Tennant.
At any given time, but he did play Barty Crouch Jr. in the movie.
Yeah, and he's in a really sleek suit.
And did the creepy tongue flickering thing. Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, that shouldn't be attractive, but it is.
Anyway,
David Tennant.
This port.
Yeah. You've had almost half that bottle. Just saying.
I'm living my life, Liz.
I know. You're drinking for 4 now. You do know that. Me and the
I'm drinking
you, me and the 2.
Yes, I'm
The
drinking for
twins.
you and the twins.
Yes, you are.
The twins who won't be able to... Am I drinking for the twins for the next 21 years? I didn't sign up for this.
Get your liver ready.
Any hoodle. David Tennant is hot.
Yes, he is. Moving on.
So, yeah, Barty Crouch's trial was bad.
Yes.
It was very scary. There were Dementors. Harry hates Dementors.
Yes.
We all hate Dementors.
And so Harry talks to Dumbledore about his scar hurting and it's kind of bothering him. And Dumbledore's like, oh, that's interesting. And just kind of leaves it at that.
Yeah, and doesn't really offer...
He's like, I think whenever Voldemort is feeling a very strong emotion, that's when your scar hurts.
Doesn't explain any more than that.
No, he leaves it.
Let's be clear. At this point, Dumbledore knows exactly why this happened.
Dumbledore knows exactly why.
Dumbledore 100% unequivocally knows the exact reason
And
these
he's
things are
not
happening.
telling Harry
And he's not telling.
in order to manipulate him. He's manipulating Harry to play his role.
What a dick. What a dick.
He is.
Anyway.
What do you expect from the embodiment of death?
Luckily, the third task, there's no fancy riddles.
No, it's just a maze.
They're like, there's gonna be a spooky maze.
Maze.
We're gonna do a full-on
spooky
Minotaur
maze
situation
Yep.
here. You gotta go through the maze, get to the center, pick up the cup. Whoever picks up
Which
the cup
is very
first
interesting.
wins.
Because I like the whole maze because that's it's very symbolistic of the journey, which
The hero's journey.
Yeah, the hero's journey, which is a major part of the whole overarching Harry Potter series. It's also a major part just of this book. It's also kind of really into like a transition or a changing from like a child to an adult, which that is what happens to Harry at the end of this maze. He is not a kid anymore. There's no way. So I think that was a very good literary device and placed exceptionally well.
Yeah.
In this book.
So Harry is prepping for it because they don't know what will be in the maze.
Yes. There's another Rita Skeeter article.
And then they have the day of family members are allowed to come.
Yes.
And Cedric comes to get Harry and says, your family's waiting for you.
And he's like, what?
He's like, are the Dursleys here?
And then he shows up and there's Molly and Charlie and Bill.
Molly and Bill are there to see him.
And she's like, yes, we all wanted to come see you, Harry dear.
But yeah, Molly and Bill are the ones who managed to make it. Fleur especially notices Bill.
Yes.
Nice earring.
Mm-hmm. And long hair. Mm. And leather jacket.
What's up?
Yeah. Hi.
What's up?
Hi.
Which, like, you know.
We should do this.
Fair.
You're perfect. I'm perfect. So we're perfect together.
So...
Yeah, so Harry's like, I have adopted family. Yay.
It's very nice and heartwarming.
And, yeah, it's really nice and heartwarming. Sirius sends a little note at breakfast with just a little paw print on it to, like, wish him good luck.
And then they have to go in the maze.
And then they have to go into the maze. And so there are...
Harry and Cedric get to go in first because they are tied for first.
And it's, there's Blastons and Scoops, there's giant spiders, there's a Sphinx with a riddle.
There's a Boggart. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. There's this golden mist that flips everything upside down. So Harry's going, and he's he's doing well. He's like getting past the Scroots pretty easily. He manages to answer the Sphinx's riddle, which he thinks would make Hermione proud. He manages to get out of the spooky mist. He has a spell that helps him point towards the center of the maze.
He saves Cedric Diggory.
And then he hears Fleur scream.
Yeah.
And then he hears Crumb cast the Cruciatus curse on Cedric.
Yeah, and he
immediately stops trying to get through the maze.
Yeah, he saves Fleur.
Burns a hole in the hedge and goes looking for them.
And saves Cedric from Crumb, who he's like, Crumb would never do that. That's so weird. Why would he do that?
So they send up red sparks for someone to come get Crumb out of the maze.
Now that he's stunned.
And then they split up. It's just him and Cedric now. This is when the Sphinx comes. he solves the problem with the Sphinx.
Yes.
And then he sees the cup. He and Cedric are both running for it, and then he sees a giant spider
attack Cedric.
And he warns Cedric, but Cedric gets gets
so,
knocked out of the way, and the spider's pincers get Harry's leg.
Yeah, because Harry's got a clear path to the cup, but he goes to help Cedric.
And so they
have a bit of an argument about stop being noble and just take the cup.
Yeah, who's going to take the cup?
Because Harry's like, I can't run on this leg, Cedric, go take it.
Cedric's like, I'm not taking it.
I wouldn't get it.
This is the second time, and this is the second time that Cedric has essentially won against Harry unfairly.
Yeah.
Like they had the Quidditch cup,
and that is not the Hufflepuff way.
And Cedric's like, no, I'm not. The first one who gets there is you. I'm not going to win any races on this play.
Yeah, and so Cedric comes up with the compromise of, let's take it together. It's still a victory for Hogwarts. Let's share it.
So they both take the cup at the same time,
and then
it's
gone.
a portkey.
It's a portkey,
and they are slammed. They think that it's still part of the task.
The task.
They find themselves in a graveyard
until,
and they pull their wands out, and then Harry starts feeling intense pain in his scar. He falls to the ground.
Yes.
And someone kills Cedric
with the killing curse.
Yeah, it's a really fucked up moment. This is the first time
This is when shit gets dark.
This is the first time in the book that we see somebody killed, quote unquote, on screen.
Yeah, where somebody is killed on screen, and it is Cedric.
It's a kid. He's 17.
A noble kid.
A good guy. Yeah. A good guy who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Like literally Voldemort's instructions are to kill the spare.
Yeah.
Like he's just extra. He shouldn't have been there. Only Harry should have made it to the cup.
Yeah, it was a senseless killing.
And so Cedric dies for no reason. Cedric dies because Well, the worst thing about it is like Cedric, you could say Cedric dies because he wouldn't take the cup by himself, but Harry was too stubborn to take the cup by himself. So, Harry is thinking Cedric died because I insisted he take the cup with me.
Yep.
Which is really kind of crushing weight to put on a 14-year-old's shoulders.
Yeah.
So Harry is tied to the gravestone of Tom Riddle.
Yes.
And he realizes that he's being held captive by Wormtail.
Yes.
And Wormtail starts this creepy potion.
Creepy spell potion. He takes a bone from Tom Riddle's grave. He cuts off his own hand.
He cuts off his hand and puts it and then he takes blood from Harry. Because Voldemort couldn't touch Harry.
Exactly.
Because of the love that was protecting him.
Lily died to protect him. A mother's love.
It's essentially a blood spell. And and so then Voldemort rises out of the cauldron fully...
With his body back.
Fully bodied, wraps himself in robes, and comes out of there, big red eyes, fucking
snake nose.
And he's there.
Pale. And Voldemort has returned.
Voldemort's back, bitches.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
Yeah, 13 years.
Harry is 14.
Yeah.
Voldemort uses the dark mark on Wormtail's arm
to summon the
Death Eaters.
And this is the classic villain monologue moment where he summons the Death Eaters to show them his strength has returned by killing his greatest foe, Harry Potter. Yeah, and also after a major speech about none of them have been loyal to him.
Yeah, well, and not all of them come back.
No, not all of them come back.
Besides the ones who have been arrested or died, there are still Death Eaters who are free who don't come at the call.
Yeah,
and we never really hear more about them.
There are Death Eaters who are free who do come at the call.
Some of them being familiar faces. Like Lucius
Malfoy and the Crabs and the Goyles.
Mm-hmm. Avery not. Yes, and so Voldemort gives Wormtail a spooky metal hand.
Yeah, Voldemort also talks about his man at Hogwarts. So there is a Death Eater at Hogwarts.
There's a Death Eater at Hogwarts. One of the people who does not show up is Karkaroff.
Karkaroff does not show up.
Yeah, it looks like we have 6 missing Death Eaters, 3 dead in my service, 1 too cowardly to return, he will pay, 1 who I believe has left me forever, he will be killed, and 1 who remains my most faithful servant. So the 3 that are missing, we know for sure one of them is Karkaroff. We know for sure one of them is Snape.
Yes, we know one is
and
Snape.
We know there's another one, but we don't know who is who.
But
at this point, we don't know who is who. Who's not here because they're an inside man? Who's not here because they're scared?
Like, we don't know which one is abandoned because they're scared, and then we don't know which one is not there because they're still serving him. Right. Which is terrifying.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So Voldemort gives. I mean, it's like literally like pages long
of villain monologue, and
he talks about how he used the Triwizard Tournament to bring Harry to him. Yeah. And then he tortures Harry for a while. You know, he's 14. Again, he's 14.
He tortures a 14-year-old boy.
Every time I read this book, the older I get, I'm just like...
He's 14.
He's 14.
Yeah.
And then he unties Harry and gives him his wand.
And says...
We're going to have a duel. I'm the most powerful dark wizard of all time. I'm going to kill you.
He's like, you're going to die, but we're going to... He's playing with his food. Essentially.
And Harry is over here like, I don't know anything about dueling. Yeah.
And so Voldemort casts a number of curses on him.
Yeah, he makes him bow. He uses the torture curse on him again. And then he uses the Imperious curse to try and make Harry say, no, I don't want you to use the Cruciatus curse again. Yeah. And Harry, it doesn't work. The Imperious curse, Harry resists it. And that makes Voldemort mad. And Harry runs. At this point, he dives behind a headstone. Hides. And he jumps back out. And at the same time,
because he's like, you know what? I'm going to die like my father. I'm going to die trying to defend myself instead of cowering here. And he casts Expelliarmus.
And Voldemort casts the killing curse. And they meet in the middle.
Connect.
And the beam of light comes between them.
Priori Incantatem.
And they're lifted into the air, surrounded by this shimmering gold light. And these beads of light come up and down the length of the...
Yes, but because if you recall, Voldemort's wand and Harry's wand are brothers. They have the
none of
same
this is explained right now, though.
No, none of this is explained right now, but they have the same core... Well, it is explained. Mr. Ollivander reminds us at the beginning when they weigh the wands that they both have...
But we didn't know up to this point that this is what would happen if 2 wands that share a core were made to battle each other. Yeah. So these beads of light come through, and Harry forces them down the length of the wand towards Voldemort's wand, and it repeats the last spells that were performed by Voldemort's wand, which was was murdering Cedric Diggory, and a kind of a ghost of Cedric comes out of the wand, and then he does it again, and that old man Frank
appears,
comes out of the wand, and then Bertha Jorkins, the old woman, the woman who knew that the Triwizard Tournament was coming, and who's been missing, who is the one who told Voldemort everything that he needed to know in order to, fix the tournament
for this tournament,
and then Harry's parents,
which
are the next ones to come out.
Every time I get to that point, I lose it. Every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, you need to... They all come and circle around Harry. They say, you need to break the connection.
Yeah,
and you need to run, get the port key, and get out. We're going to give you as much time as you can.
Yeah, and Cedric is like, take my body back to my parents.
And Harry rips his wand away, runs, grabs Cedric's arm, and uses the summoning charm to pull the Triwizard Cup to him.
And get back to Hogwarts.
And he reappears outside of the maze in the front of God and everybody, clutching Cedric Diggory's dead body.
And freaking out.
Yeah.
Chaos ensues.
Absolutely.
Like, Harry doesn't know what's going on. Like, Dumbledore's trying to talk to him. Fudge has lost his goddamn mind. Fudge is trying to be like, no, Diggory's just stunned. Don't worry about it. Because, like, he's trying to control the situation. And Dumbledore's like, oh my god, we have a problem. And Harry is being pulled in 7 different directions. And then suddenly, Mad Eye grabs him and takes him back to the castle.
And gives him a potion, like, is trying to calm him down, asking a lot of details.
A lot of detailed
getting
questions.
very, very intense on this. He says that Karkaroff has run away because he thought that Karkaroff... Because Harry's like, I think Karkaroff is the Death Eater who was working for Voldemort.
Yeah.
And Moody says, I know who the Death Eater was. Karkaroff fled as soon as he felt the dark mark burn on his arm.
Yeah. He'll be killed.
And then Moody says, I did it.
Yeah.
And he gets pretty crazy.
Yeah, he gets straight up cray-cray.
He tells Harry that he's the one who fired the dark mark into the sky
at the
Quidditch World Cup. He's the one who gave Harry all of the clues he needed, whether he gave them to him directly,
set up Harry to win,
or whether he gave Neville the book, which led him to the Gillyweed. He's the one who
Gillyweed.
told Dobby to steal the Gillyweed.
He told
Cedric to hold his egg underwater.
And he's like, I knew you would. I convinced Hagrid to show you the dragons. All I had to do was make sure you got through the maze. So I put the Confundus curse on Crumb.
And made him attack Cedric Diggory, but you saved him. And he's just like going crazy. And then the door bursts open and Dumbledore...
McGonagall and Snape.
Bursts in and knocks Moody out.
Yeah.
Dumbledore is not happy.
He's furious. It's one of those moments where Harry is like, I have no idea why anyone is afraid of Dumbledore until that moment.
Yeah. And... Dumbledore explains it's not actually Moody. He asks Snape to bring him a truth potion and get the house elf called Winky. Minerva, kindly go down to Hagrid's house and you will find a large dog sitting in the pumpkin patch. Take it to my office. Tell him I will be with him shortly.
Yes.
And then they just go and do it. Dumbledore opens up Moody's trunk, and inside of it is the real Mad Eye Moody.
Yes, and we discover...
in some kind of prison.
Yeah.
And
we discover that who we thought was Mad Eye Moody is actually Barty Crouch Jr.
Using a Polyjuice potion.
He did not die in Azkaban. His mother was dying, and her dying wish was to release her son from Azkaban, so they swapped places. And he was kept under the Confundus Curse and under an invisibility cloak his entire life, and Winky was the one who was supposed to take care of him.
And Winky knew all about this.
Yes.
They feed him Vertiserum, and he tells them everything.
Everything.
His father smuggled him out of Azkaban on his mother's wishes. He told Voldemort about Bertha Jorkins.
Yes.
He was given permission to go to the Quidditch World Cup under an invisibility cloak.
Yeah, that's why Crouch never showed up for his seat. Winky was sitting next to Barty Crouch
Jr. He cast the
Dark Mark
into the sky because he was mad at the Death Eaters who would torture Muggles but wouldn't do anything to help Voldemort. He also killed his father. Stunned Crumb, killed his father in the woods.
Turned him into a bone and buried him
because he had been keeping him captive in his house.
And he is now under lock and key. Dumbledore takes Harry to his office, and Harry has to recount everything that's already happened.
Yeah, again. It's a whole thing.
He's got Sirius there to comfort him and to help him. Which, God, can you imagine being Sirius Black and listening to this story and getting to the point where your best friends... Can you imagine being Sirius and getting to the point in this story where Harry sees his parents and you're like, that's my best friend and his son is sitting here and he's been through something terrible and I failed as a godparent.
Yeah. And I mean, Dumbledore tells Harry that the Diggorys are with Professor Sprout.
Yes. She knew Cedric best as head of his house.
And then Dumbledore explains the Priori Incantatem, and how their wands share cores, and so they cannot duel against each other.
This is when we find out that Fox was the one to donate her feathers to Harry's wand.
The Phoenix feathers came from Dumbledore's pet.
And then Dumbledore gets all the information he can out of Harry about what happened. And Dumbledore springs into action. He sends Hagrid and Madame Maxime to talk with him in his office. He sends Harry to the hospital wing. He tells Sirius what to do. Dumbledore already had a plan, and he's setting it in motion.
But Cornelius Fudge...
Cornelius fucking Fudge.
...does not want to believe that Voldemort is back.
No.
He is the leader of essentially the Muggle world in Europe.
Yeah.
And he does not want to deal with the implications of Voldemort returning.
No.
So he chooses instead to believe that
happen.
Harry made everything up.
And the only other reliable witness they had to
was Barty Crouch
Jr., which he had the Dementor perform the Dementor's kiss on him.
Fudge didn't even have him perform the kiss. The Dementor just did it.
Yeah, and he let it happen. And Dumbledore's furious.
Yeah.
At this.
He can't give any testimony now. And
and he's like, well, what testimony do you need to give? The Dark
crazy.
Lord didn't come back. And Dumbledore's like, he did.
So yeah, it becomes a whole thing. Harry can speak Parseltongue.
Yeah, which is typically a mark of a dark wizard. So now Fudge is questioning whether Harry actually is a hero or not.
Nightmares, hallucinations.
Yeah, he thinks Harry is unstable because of the articles Rita Skeeter wrote about him. Everything's all just messed up. And even at the end of your feast...
And Harry tries to name names of Death Eaters.
And he's like, you're just repeating off the lists you found 13 years ago. And Harry's like, no, I was there.
Yeah.
Do you think I did this to my goddamn self?
I do, yeah, and this is also a point at which when Harry says that he can name names, Snape reacts to that, looking over, kind of making a sudden movement, but does not say anything.
And Dumbledore tells Snape, your time has come. Do what we talked about.
Yeah, he's like, he sends Snape off on some sort of mission. Fudge refuses to acknowledge that he is back. Snape whips up his sleeve and shows him the dark mark, which does not work.
No.
That just makes Fudge more upset. I don't know what kind of people you have in this institution of yours. I don't know what you're, thinking here. And then he drops off 1,000 fucking galleons on Harry's bedside and goes
it's like,
back
these
to
are your winnings. There was going to be a ceremony, but I guess not.
Yeah. And so...
And then at the end of your feast, everything's decorated in black, and Dumbledore tells the school, Voldemort is back, and he killed Cedric Diggory. To tell you anything else is an insult to his memory.
Sidebar, wait, before we do that. Hold that, and we'll repeat that whole thing, because I'm going to just delete that.
Okay.
After Bill and Snape, Snape's not. After Bill is sent back to his father, after Fudge is left.
Yes.
He has Sirius transform.
Back into himself.
Mrs. Weasley is
like,
not happy.
No.
And neither is Snape.
And Ron is like, don't worry, Mom, he's cool.
And And Dumbledore is like, you're on the same side now. Shake hands. And he's like, even if you don't respect each other, I will take tolerance. Mm-hmm. You need to alert Remus Lupin, Arabella Figg, Mundungus Fletcher, the old crowd.
Yeah.
And he leaves, and then Snape is sent off to do whatever it is that Dumbledore
wants him to do.
He goes to see the Diggories, and Harry stays with Ron, Hermione, and Mrs. Weasley.
In the hospital wing.
And it's not a great night.
No, it's not a great night. And Dumbledore has told the school, don't talk to Harry about what happened. Don't ask him. Don't push it. Don't. And the rest of the school abides by that. Even Ron and Hermione don't ask him what happened until Harry offers it, which is probably the best course of action there. But
the nice thing that never really occurred to me before, because you never see them again in the story that I can remember, is Harry meets with the Diggories.
He does.
The next morning. He tells them what happened to Cedric.
Yeah.
And they do believe him.
They do believe him, yes.
Immediately, they believe him, and they thank him for bringing back their son's body. They're grieving a lot, and he tries to give them his winnings. They won't take it.
They won't take it.
I don't know what happens to them after that, but it is nice to know that even whenever there are a lot of people not believing him about this, like, at least the people whose son was murdered by Voldemort believe him.
Believe Harry didn't do it.
So then they have their final...
And their end of year feast is very somber.
It's very somber.
It's all in black, and Dumbledore gets up and he tells the school that Cedric Diggory was murdered by Voldemort. Most people don't want me to tell you this. Most people won't even believe this. But to tell you anything else about what happened to Cedric, who was a brave and honest young man, is an insult to his memory. And we're all going to have to face choices in the future about what's the right thing to do and what's the easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. And in a time like this, our unity and our togetherness and the friendships we've formed now are going to be more important than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. He talks about how they're stronger together and that everyone will be welcomed back.
Yes, to Hogwarts.
With open arms. And, not all of the students believe. Most of them are listening. Over at the Slytherin table, Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle are whispering amongst themselves. But most of the students do appear to be listening to Dumbledore. And taking in what he's saying. And then they pack up to leave. Fleur Delacour comes and she says goodbye to them. She's very happy to see them.
Yes.
Crumb comes to say goodbye to them.
And he's said goodbye to Hermione, and he's like, please write me. Mm-hmm.
And he...
Ron gets his autograph.
And then they head home. Hermione, in the train on the way home...
has a bug in a jar.
Pulls out a jar with a beetle in it. She has kidnapped Rita Skeeter, whose animagus form is a beetle.
And that's
she's
how she was
unregistered.
That's how she was able to get on school grounds
and so she's like, I told her I'd let her go
after a year, and then she has to keep her quill to herself. And this is the moment where you're like, don't fuck with Hermione. She will fuck you up.
Yeah.
And also, too, at the end of it, Harry gives his winnings to Fred and George Weasley.
Yes. And
he's like, take it or else I'm going to dump it down the drain. He's like, I don't need 1,000 galleons, but I could do with a few laughs. And he knows their ambition is to open a joke shop. And so he gives it to them, especially since Ludo Bagman stripped them of all their money.
This is after Fred and George cursed the fuck out of Malfoy and his cronies on the train.
Everybody curses the fuck out of Malfoy and his cronies on the train.
Yeah.
Even I'm like,
Malfoy
pick your
has
battles,
tentacles
Malfoy.
all over his face. Yeah.
Even I'm like, pick your battles, Draco. Pick your fucking battles. But yeah, Harry tells him, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna need a good laugh, so use this money, open up your joke shop. I'm sorry Ludo Bagman screwed you over. Because the twins were paid in leprechaun gold.
Which disappeared.
And so Harry goes back to
this book
Privet
ends
Drive.
on a very bleak note. It's like Voldemort's back. Harry's still got good friends by his side, but things are not going to be easy going forward.
No, and the last line is, as Hagrid said, what would come, and he would meet it when it did.
Cheerful.
Yeah, well... Yeah, so we tried to keep this as short as we could of a recap, but this book is over 700 pages long!
I enjoy this one. The tone takes a decided turn to the darker in this one.
And we're introduced...
There's more use of magic, like just in like there's more magical spells happening on the reg.
And we're introduced as readers to a lot of real world concepts that we need to understand.
New characters and political machinations.
Yeah, there's political machinations in this book that are really accessible to young readers, especially at that age, that they really need to know about, especially in this day and age in this world, especially about the media and how things can be twisted or left out or exaggerated, and how
Well, we get more of that in the 5th book.
Yeah, we get a lot more of that in the 5th book.
There's a little bit of that in this one, but it really gets...
That's pretty consistent from here on out through to the 7th book. And so it's just really just like check your sources for yourself, man. You gotta. And then we've got the whole people who are in power simply not believing something because it's inconvenient for them. Ideas started here. People of power manipulating situations to their benefit, like Ludo Bagman tried to help Harry along to win the cup because he needed to pay off gambling debts.
Sat on him, yeah.
We have Cornelius Fudge, who is just trying to kind of pull the strings in the ministry from behind the curtain. We've got this whole thing with Barty Crouch, where he had an entire political ambition and neglected one part of his life completely, which then affected a lot of other people. And we're really getting into the world is not made up of good people and Death Eaters here right now. Yeah, for sure. And we're also, now that Voldemort's back, we are now who is officially on Voldemort's side and who isn't. I mean...
Well, and that's the other interesting thing. You get characters like Snape, which become way more interesting after this point. Snape, literally, like, at this point, Snape fucking hates Harry.
Hates him.
That's fine. That is what that is. You're not going to argue with that point. But Snape, at no point in this book, does not back what Harry's saying to be true.
That's true.
As soon as Harry comes back and is like, Voldemort's back, Snape backs him.
Yeah, he does.
Because Snape understands that Voldemort cannot be allowed
to rise again. And
regardless of, like, and that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you have a person here who's like, yeah, Wizard Hitler is bad, but I bully teenagers. Like,
yeah,
the situation is a lot more nuanced than this is a bad person, this is a good person.
Exactly.
This is a dick of a person who is going to work together with these good people to help save the wizarding world.
Exactly. His motivations might not be the most fantastic, but
that doesn't matter in the long run.
No, in the long run, Snape is the ends justify the means kind of a character there.
So is Dumbledore.
And yeah, Dumbledore is too, because Dumbledore does some, like, Dumbledore's manipulating a 14-year-old.
Dumbledore does a lot of fucked up shit.
Yeah, Dumbledore does a lot
Mind you, I would also like to point out one of the few things that happen in this book.
Yes.
At the very end is Dumbledore told Mrs. Weasley and Ron that Harry could come stay with him for the summer.
Yes.
He had to go to the Dursleys first, but like for just like a week or something.
Yeah,
and then they could come get him and take him for the summer following this book.
Yes.
That is not what's going to happen.
No. It's not.
So, yeah, the characters are a lot more complex. Things are getting more nuanced, but still in a way that's accessible to kids who are reading these books. Especially, obviously, you're probably not going to go into this book as your first Harry Potter book.
No, you're not. You're going to read the first 3.
You'll already have had even a younger child will have the chance to develop.
It's built on those concepts. It's built on the concepts of the racism, the inherent unfairness in society, the untrustworthiness of the media and the government. Like, we are the Harry Potter generation. We grew up reading these books. We were the proper age for it. And then everybody wonders why we don't trust things.
Yeah.
It's like, it's because we were told at a very young age that we're not getting all the information.
That's right. No, yeah, I think this is a pretty good one. I like this one a lot. I think it has a lot more action.
This is one of my favorites.
And how many bottles would you give it?
You asked me how many times I've reread the 4th one. I've reread the 4th one the most, so 4.5.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd give it 4.
So that's 4.25 for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. Check it out. It's great. And it's, obviously we're doing the Harry Potter read through.
Yeah.
So look out
if you have any suggestions for us to condense Order of the Phoenix, which is another brick, please let us know.
Order
we took notes this time.
It's the longest one And
we took notes for Goblet of Fire to try and keep it short.
It's going to be a whole thing.
And it's still a mess.
So Order of the Phoenix will be coming shortly. The next book after Goblet of Fire will be The Thief by Megan Whalen Turner. And then we'll have the Order of the Phoenix after that. So keep your ears open for those. In the meantime, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or at litliteraturepodcast.com, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you're feeling generous, we do have a Patreon. Friendly reminders, Casey's getting married, I'm having 2 babies, please help.
We would not say no to a donation.
We would not say no.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information, visit us at litliteraturepodcast.com or check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And remember, too much work and no vacation deserves at least a small libation. Cheers!